All right, friends, you ready? We're ready for the summer of awe?
Okay.
Drum roll. No worries, Nick. Have a drink of water. It's fine. I was inspired to offer this series I'm calling the Summer Series of Awe, inspired by the book by Dacher Keltner, which is called Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. And I was inspired to do that because I felt like we could all use some awe and wonder, right? And also, it's a fascinating study of how we're actually wired for that experience. And due to some of the modernality of our life, we have to actually cultivate it a little more than we did when we lived more in nature, on the land. The skies were full of stars. It was more accessible. But we still recognize it, and we still have access to it. So how does awe transform your life? I love his answer to this. He says, by quieting the nagging, self-critical, overbearing, status-conscious voice of ourself. Whew! He's not talking about us. I don't know who he's studied, but some other people. Our ego, and empowering us to collaborate, to open our minds to wonders, and to see the deep patterns of life. Which, in turn, I couldn't help but think, there you are, keeps us reaching for the light, right? Keeps us inspired to know, okay, there's something happening here. And it is indeed pulling us upward, not pushing us down. And yet we have to, that has to be our outlook. We have to be open to that. And when it feels like, this is pushing me down. What is there for me to grow into, to grow through, and to trust that that is really what's pulling me forward? So his study was fascinating across the globe. He studied people of different cultures, different socioeconomic means, and they landed on these 8 wonders of life that were most frequently reported to inspire awe. I reviewed them last week. We're going to center on the first one today, moral beauty. But for those of you with inquiring minds, I'll list them for you all. Moral beauty is witnessing other people's kindness, courage, and strength in overcoming. It was the most frequently mentioned experience of awe in the study. And the beauty of that is we do that. We can do that. We don't have to fly to the moon or have Mozart level of a musical mind. We can experience and witness and be the example of that courage and that kindness and that overcoming. Second was collective effervescence, the life force that merges people into a collective self or a tribe, a we. I hope to inspire an experience of that for you next week. I've asked Sarah Rain, who is a master at teaching the dances of universal peace. Don't be afraid, you don't have to have any skills. But she's going to talk to us about the commonality of the faith traditions and how in their prayer and their connection, really what's common about them, how they express differently, and yet the themes are so similar. And how when we do that collectively in movement and song, it connects us in that sort of collective effervescence. That's next Sunday. Nature was 3, music was 4, art and visual design was 5, mystical and spiritual experiences was 6, experiences of life and death was 7, and epiphany, when we suddenly understand essential truths about life, was the 8th wonder that inspired awe. I'd like to think that every Sunday you experience a sense of collective effervescence here. You're connecting with other people. Right? You're experiencing inspiration through music and maybe having some spiritual epiphanies, I hope. I don't know. So a lot of these are imbued in spiritual and religious experiences. So today we're focusing on the wonder of moral beauty. And again, I'll give you the definition of awe. Is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast, that transcends your current understanding of the world. If I can get through this today, I'm so excited. There's something really cool that I learned from it. If you already know it, don't tell me. Just pretend you're really surprised. It has to do with, you ever notice, like when you're listening to music or even when you're watching something beautiful, your eyes fill with tears or you get goosebumps? Oh, the evolution of this. Just wait. I've got you on the edge of your seats? Okay, good. Hang on a minute. So that is the definition of awe, and the definition then of moral beauty is witnessing other people's courage, kindness, strength, and overcoming. And that's what we're talking about today, which again is imbued in life all around us when we pay attention to it. So the author shares stories of people, how they have experienced this in their life. And I bring this one to you because it's very poignant, and I think it captures what I'm going to lead into with understanding how we are literally wired to connect with each other. Those feelings that we get are part of an evolutionary process that remembers itself in each other, that we need each other. So one of the stories he tells is very touching, of a mother in relaying her experience of awe in being with her daughter as she gave birth to her stillborn son. And the immensity of that emotion of wanting to protect her from having to experience that, and also the immense courage and strength that her daughter exemplified in getting through that experience, brought her, the mother, to express a deep sense of awe, like a strength and a courage that if she could have exchanged it, she would have, but also was so profound to see what we're capable of when we're pushed to those circumstances that really try us, right? There was a courage and a strength. Did anybody, when I read that, I got goosebumps in my eyes filled with tears. I could relate to that experience. I've never had it, but I could feel the power of it, and the compassion arose in me. So it turns out that our tears, chills, and woes are common responses to awe, experiences of awe. Our eyes fill with tears. We get chills on the hairs on our, I don't have any hairs on my neck, but if I did, they'd stand up, and we get goosebumps, right? And what's a common verbalization? Whoa. Yeah. And so I'm going to geek out just a tiny bit with a little science, so just stick with me here. He says this, that contemporary science has proposed that we tear up when witnessing acts of communal sharing, a way humans relate to one another, grounded in a sense of common humanity. So vital is this way of relating in our collective life that when we witness acts of communal sharing, a stranger's generosity, one person soothing another, or two athletic adversaries embracing, tears well up in our eyes. Tears arise when we perceive vast things that unite us in community. Tears are a biological response to our deep awareness of what unites us with others. So in a way, we are, through witnessing each other's acts of kindness and overcoming, we're tapping into the vastness of connection itself that outweighs any differences that we may fixate on. We're connecting with something very primal. So there are, I won't bore you too much, but there are different kinds of, our eyes are tearing all the time, the gland that just keeps our eyes moist. And then certainly, like if somebody pokes us in the eye or there's smoke or something, that gland is also activated to provide tears to flush that out. But when we are crying for an emotional connection, a whole different system started in our vagus nerve. Do you know about this vagus nerve? It's just amazing. Talk about awe-defining. The vagus nerve, I have to read it, wanders from the top of your spinal cord through your facial and vocal muscles and through your lungs, your heart, your intestinal wall, communicating with the flora and the fauna of your gut You didn't know you were getting this kind of a lesson. It slows your heart rate, calms the body, and through enabling eye contact and vocalization can bring about a sense of connection and belonging. This is like, talk about whoa. So it gets triggered as part of like our primal sense of connecting, and we tear up. The chills, this is where I really love it. Get ready. He says this, today, a new science of embodiment reveals that many of our most significant thoughts have correlates in bodily responses. Within the arts, certain qualities of music can produce the chills, such as crescendos, high-pitched solos, expansive guitar riffs, fast drumming, didn't know I had you all in there, and dissonant chords. The chills also arise when music brings us closer to others in a sense of shared identity. So there are a variety, now this is where it's going to get a little technical, but it's worth it. There are a variety of chills associated with different experiences. Keltner explains that the cold, shiver, and shudder accompany feelings of horror and dread. Stories of human depravity, hearing of genocide, torture, pedophilia can trigger cold shivers. Cold shivers are accompanied by the sense of being alienated, alone, and separate from others. Okay, hold that in mind. A second kind of chills is a tingling sensation in the arms, up the neck, shoulders, and the crown of the head, which we know as goosebumps. Studies have found that goosebumps are associated with heightened sense that you are joined with others in community. Our experiences of awe are accompanied by goosebumps, but not cold shivers. And this is where, when we follow the evolution of these two responses, it's fascinating. Ready? Stick with me. Alongside eating and oxygen, keeping our oxygen at the right level, maintaining our body temperature is crucial, right? It's crucial to our survival. So complex brain and body mechanisms kick into gear whenever you are too hot or too cold. I will not mention that I'm in menopause. Da-da-da. My brain is not working as well in that way. So highly social mammals, such as certain rodents, wolves, primates, and humans, have an additional tool in their toolkit for handling extreme cold. They huddle. In other words, we are wired to lean in and cooperate with others when facing peril. Social mammals' first response to extreme cold is known as, does anyone know what the scientific name for goosebumps? I wish you did, so I didn't have to say it alone. All right. It's scientifically called piloerection. The bodily reaction underlying goosebumps that causes our skin to like bunch up so that cold can't penetrate it as much. Right? This is the bodily reaction underlying goosebumps. It causes our skin to bunch, rendering it less porous to cold. Visible piloerection signals to others to huddle, initiating proximity and contact. With humans, it takes the form of a supportive touch or an embrace. There's literally like it calms us when someone touches us, when we are cold, you would think, but actually when we are having an experience of needing connection. Proximity and physical contact activate a neurochemistry of connection. So this is where it gets amazing. When our mammalian relatives encountered vast and perilous mysteries, numbing cold, roaring water, sudden gusts of wind, thunderous downpouring, and lightning, they piloerected and found warmth and strength in drawing closer to others. Our goosebumps today, when we hear those stories of kindness or overcoming, are the remnants of this physiological response, whereby we found warmth and strength and belonging with others. Our body remembers that we need each other to survive. And so when we hear these stories of people overcoming and people showing kindness and people coming together, we have a physiological remembrance. Is that not cool? Okay, thank you. The other option, which still results in a cold chill, was having to do it alone. Keltner reports that should huddling be unavailable, mammals facing perilous cold turn to shivering and shuddering, vigorous muscle contractions that warm the body's tissues. So they had to do the work to keep themselves warm alone. Today, we humans shiver and shudder when facing imperiling mysteries and unknowns alone. When feeling rejected socially, ostracized, or acutely lonely, or when encountering the horrors that others can perpetuate. The cold shivers have a much different neurophysiological profile than goosebumps, involving activation in threat regions of the brain and elevating blood pressure. So that is all to say that navigating life alone takes a toll on us. It literally occurs to us as threatening. So the conclusion is that our tears register our awareness of vast things that unite us with others. Our goosebumps accompany notions of joining with others and facing mysteries unknown together. And there's something that moves me to recognize how this is playing out when we have gotten ourselves so divided. And it breaks our hearts if we really hone into it, if we get below the, I can't believe these people are doing that. It breaks our hearts. There's something in us that knows if we are to really survive and thrive, we have to do it together. Did anybody get goosebumps? Yeah. I know I've got it cold in here. That's purposeful. So the author concludes that witnessing others' acts of courage, kindness, strength, and overcoming, we often sense tears and goosebumps. Our bodies signals that we are part of a community appreciating what unites us. And when moved by the wonders of others, the soul in our bodies is awakened. And acts of reverence often quickly follow. So we are more likely to feed the cycle of moral beauty, to help each other out, to witness each other. The awe felt in encountering humanity's better angels can counter toxic tribal tendencies. I love that quote. And lastly, woes. This is a real simple one. I love, he quotes Charles Darwin, hypothesized that our woe illustrates how we alert others to the wonders of life and align ourselves in understanding and action. Woe and other vocal outbursts like reveal admiration, astonishment, and appreciation, and we recognize them across cultures. He pointed out that their findings in the study across those cultures, in those studies, the vocal bursts of awe is the most universal sound of emotion and readily recognized even by people in remote villages in the Himalayas. When you said, whoa, they knew to lean in. This is fascinating, yeah? I want to read this one story to you that totally brings all of this together in a real life experience. He in his interviews came across this doctor who spends his time working with the homeless population in Oakland, California, a job that has many of his fellow doctors burning out pretty quickly, but he has remained doing this for years. And he says this, that many health professionals get burnt out from this work, but Dr. Leif Haas, stays resilient and close to the Hippocratic Oath to reduce harm through the moral beauty of people he cares for. Here is a story of awe that he sent me called A Ray of Light, about a patient who was born with cerebral palsy and lost the use of his hands due to a surgery. The following exchange moved Haas to awe. "Hey, how you been, Ray?" He replied, "I just wake up every day and think about what I can do to make people happy." The goosebumps rise on my arms. Whoa, Ray, you are an amazing person, my friend. Now tell me about what brought you into the hospital. Ray fills me in on the details in the slightly strained and slurred speech that sometimes comes with cerebral palsy. My mind goes to work trying to diagnose this mysterious case of happiness. We chat for another 10 minutes about God and love and looking out for one another, and finally I say, sorry, Ray, I gotta get going. Leaving the room, I feel enlivened, yet strangely humbled. The author goes on to piece together what we've been talking about by saying this, that encounters with moral beauty can take us aback, as in Leaf's story of awe. They have the power of an epiphany, an unforgettable scene in a novel or movie. Philosophical analysis or spiritual epiphany in novelists' portrayal of personal epiphany find that the experience is imbued with a sense of light, clarity, truth, and sharpened recognition of what really matters. Leaf's story is titled accordingly, A Ray of Light, and follows the pattern unfolding of awe. Ray's overcoming cerebral palsy strikes the doctor as vast and mysterious. Ray's generosity shifts Leaf from his default self-doctor-patient checklist to really appreciating Ray's kindness. Leaf wonders why Ray is so happy. His body registers Ray's goodness in goosebumps, a bodily reminder of being part of something larger than the self. And he feels enlivened and humbled. So this is the everyday experience that we connect with that enlivens this hardwired remembrance of how we survive together. Luckily, we are all mostly have the luxury and the privilege of being indoors, so managing our temperature isn't the primary cause of this anymore. But, there's a lot of work being done about what the body remembers. The body holds things that perhaps our minds and emotions can't quite process. And so there's great wisdom being uncovered in science for that. But that's enough about science today, I promise. The conclusion, and we're going to do a meditation here in just a moment, is that to feel the awe that we are actually wired in ways that tune us into each other, into the vastness of possibilities in the world, is really to tune into divine intelligence that is imbued in all things, ourselves included, and in all creation. That we can take comfort in knowing that there is that within us and within creation itself that serves this purpose of pulling us together in order to appreciate what unites us and is key to our very survival. So we find that harmony and beauty and peace and love are really accessible when we tune into that primal sort of pull to cooperate and to lean in, to keep each other warm, to appreciate each other. And to witness the courage that it takes to be a human being. And to do that together is so beautiful. So I've said a lot to you. Take a time to just kind of reflect on this in meditation, this awe and this idea that we are internally wired, biologically, physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, to be connected with spirit and with each other.
Harmony in my thinking, beauty in my singing, peace in my feeling, and love in my doing. my thinking. Beauty, beauty in my seeing. Peace, peace in my feeling, and love in my doing. One more time. Harmony in my thinking, beauty in my seeing, peace in my feeling, and love in my doing. Harmony, beauty, peace, and love, now and always.
Take a deep breath, closing your eyes if you haven't already, feeling the support of the chair behind your back and the floor under your feet as you take a breath. And let all that I've led you through this morning land with you. This idea of awe and wonder, and how we intrinsically know it when we see it, when we feel it. And how it is calling us into this vastness that is ordered by divine intelligence and creativity, that is connecting all that is together, this foundation of oneness, that there is one source of life, and each one of us is a living expression of that source. As are the mountains and the valleys and the rivers and the streams, and all the animals that exist in those areas. All of that is an expression of divine life. And so you can affirm again, as we did this morning, for yourself in this time of meditation, I reflect the brilliant light of God. Right where I am, right in this moment, that is the truth of my being, that I am a reflection of the brilliant light of God. So the question becomes, how can I shine that light more freely, more fully? What is blocking the light? What is blocking my knowing this as fully as I can this day? And can I let that go? And we are all invited into the expression of this moral beauty that we've been talking about, sharing our own strength and courage and kindness, and paying attention to when it shows up in our life. And in so doing, calling forward that divine order, that divine life flowing freely and fully as us. I am a reflection of the brilliant light of God right here, right now. And I let that be in the silence. And we know we can do this. We can connect with this knowing any place, any time that we set our intention to it.
Harmony in my thinking, beauty in my seeing, peace in my feeling, and love in my doing. Harmony, beauty, peace, and love. Now